Hi everybody, good evening. My name is Alan, and on behalf of the crew I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, we've done, I guess, 5 seasons and about 60 shows now, and in some ways all of them have been truly just spectacular and extraordinary and inspiring. But tonight's show, really, if you have an extra videotape around, stick it in, because I think that tonight's guests with an S and an apostrophe, will really bring something truly special into all our lives tonight. Our first guest, Lynnclaire Dennis, has written the book The Pattern, and I don't often get my mind blown or just get blown away by somebody's experience and someone's humbleness and grace with that experience, and Lynnclaire is like that. And I think that what she has been allowed to experience and what she experiences and what she shares with people will really be an experience to change your life. So please, if you're watching me speak at this minute, sit down, give yourself an hour, and just relax and participate in this show with us all tonight. And we also have a singing duo, a singer-songwriter combination of Jackson and Shasta, who also live their life as a bridge of heaven and earth. Whatever that bridge might be, however you can conceive it to be, that's the dedication, that's the inspiration of their life. So really, tonight's show should be an exemplifying moment for what this show is about a dedication to the oneness, about the core of life where there is no separation, where there is no division, but only love. And that's what this show is about in particular, and that's what this show is about in general. So we're just honored to be here again with you, and please just sit and relax and enjoy the show, because I'm sure you will if you can just be open to it. So as we normally do at this time, please join me in a short meditation, and then we'll have just a spectacular show. So thank you. Thank you. So I think we're going to begin tonight's show with Jackson and Shasta singing "Love is the Answer," and as we all know, it is, and we'll know how to achieve it more if we watch this whole show tonight and participate in it. So Jackson and Shasta, "Love is the Answer."
Love is the answer for all of our troubles. Love is the answer for all of our fears. Why do we hold on to all of these troubles? Why do we hold on to all of these fears? Love everyone as ourselves, our life, and offer every moment to the divine in our life. Why do we struggle with all of these troubles? Why do we struggle with all of these fears? Love is the answer for all of our troubles. these fields. Love everyone as ourselves, our life, and offer every moment to the divine in our life. Now we have let go of all of these troubles. Now we have let go of all of these fears. Love is the answer for all of our troubles. Love is the answer for all of our fears.
Yeah, thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Shasta. So as you can see, I'm here with Lynnclaire Dennis, the author of the patterns. Hi, welcome.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
So why don't you start by telling how this whole impossible dream started for you, or possible dream now, right?
Right. Well, it started 11 years ago. I was racing a hot air balloon across the Austrian Alps.
And this was on your wedding?
On my honeymoon.
Honeymoon,
right. And we were flying, and all of a sudden we're sailing along, and at 12,000 feet, I found myself outside of the balloon looking at my body and going, that's interesting, I'm not my body. I'm not in my body, but I'm not my body. And we were oxygen deprived, and circumstances had conspired somewhat, I think a cosmic comedy of sorts, to take me out quickly, and I experienced what's commonly called a near-death experience. And
you were out a long time on earthly time, right?
On earthly time, yes. I was gone quite a while. It's they think I probably lost consciousness at around 9,000 feet. I left my body. I remember hearing the dialogue between, the other two in the balloon, my husband and the pilot, at 12,000 feet. And it was not until somewhere between 17 and 20,000 feet that they noticed that I was dead. And during that time, I was having this very richly textured near-death experience, and had many of the common, occurrences that happen. The
tunnel and the light.
Right,
but something
exactly.
specific happened to you.
Right.
The pattern happened. What? Yes.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, most people, it's interesting, Alan, because most people talk about the tunnel, about going through the tunnel to get to the other side. That wasn't my experience. I just turned around, and all of a sudden, I'm halfway around the world. I'm no longer over the Alps. It's not winter time anymore. It's not January. It's July, because the alpine meadows are in full bloom. And my grandmother is coming to meet me. And my grandmother died when I was 11. And so I'm having this, this life review, as most people describe it.
How'd you do?
I did great. That's where I found out that the only thing that mattered was love. Because
right.
all of a sudden there's this parade of people coming out to talk to me.
And all it was
and
about
all
love.
it boils down to love. That was what it was about.
Right.
But there was one interesting thing. I knew everybody who came onto the stage, but the last person who came out, I didn't know. It was like everybody came out a doorway to the left, took center stage, and then walked off this doorway.
And these were people in your life that you knew?
Right.
Okay.
So they came from the right and entered through this left, and I thought, oh, that's where I'm going. I'm going to be on the other side pretty soon, that other doorway. Well, the last person that came out the door was someone I didn't know, and this person walked center stage and said, Lynnclaire, you'll be a catalyst for change.
You'll be a catalyst for change.
For love. You'll
Right.
bring forth, hold, and honor remembrance. You'll bring to conscious awareness the realms, realities, and remnants in order that the spirit may remember the dance. I thought, who are you? And this person turned and walked the other way, back the other way. And then it was that the tunnel, that was when I came to the tunnel. And there's only one word in my book with all capital letters. And it's not pattern, and it's not even love. It's music. And that's why Shasta and Jackson's music was so wonderful. It's like we can end the discussion right here. The answer is love. But it was the music that drew me through that tunnel. And I came to the end of the tunnel, and I've always said that I left my right footprint embedded in eternity. Because as I stepped out, I saw what I knew was taking me home. I was going home. And
it was clear that that's you were going to a place of peace, a place.
The music was
right.
taking me to love.
Right.
That which I had always
which
wanted.
Is home.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
And my next experience was I couldn't wait to get there. I couldn't, you know, wait to be in that full embrace. My next recollection was someone grabbing my left foot and pulling me backwards, back into the tunnel, and I didn't want to go. And I remember twisting, turning in my body, because I knew if I was going to be hauled back, that I had to remember what it was I had seen. And I can remember twisting and looking to see it.
To see it again, to try
exactly.
to get a better look at it. Yeah.
So I could remember it.
Right.
Well, they said that what was happening, of course, when I was being pulled back, was my husband, who was a physician, was reviving me, giving me CPR in the balloon.
So this is really like a traditional story of the near-death experience and you coming
right.
back out. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And but I came back swinging. I came back with fists flailing. They said, you know, that if I'd connected with either one of them, I would have landed
right.
a serious blow. Well, I'd suffered severe hypoxia, lack of oxygen to the brain, and spent the next 7 months saying that I'd been assigned to communication.
But you didn't know what it was at this point.
Yes, I knew that. Here's all I knew. I knew, and all I could articulate was that I had seen the strand of the tapestry that wove all creation. I said it's space, it's time, it's light, it's what matter is, it's how matter moves, and because it's love. Love is the only thing that matters. And so,
but you couldn't, at that point, you couldn't draw it, you couldn't...
I couldn't talk. The doctor said...
Oh, that's right.
I mean, I had suffered a very serious hypoxic
and they
episode
said you
to the brain.
walk or talk again.
They said I wouldn't walk or talk normally again. A lot of people say I don't.
Yeah, you still haven't gotten
right.
in the, you know.
Yeah,
okay.
we don't do normal
right,
anymore. I spent, you know, 35 years guessing at what normal was.
Right.
So now we're into natural, not
right.
supernatural. It's not.
Right,
It's just
natural's
natural.
good enough.
Natural's all. Well, it's all it
there
is.
Right.
Right. And so I spent the next 4 years driving everybody crazy, trying
Just
to
trying
remember.
to really remember.
Trying to get back in my body.
Right.
Trying to figure out who I was, because every belief I had, you know, became like ashes scattered over the wind of the over the Alps. And so I had to put my whole life back together. And so it was from an emotional, a consciousness, a spiritual expression. Physical, exactly. And so I spent the first year basically doing the doctor's way, and then I realized it wasn't working for me, and I'm convinced that it was the 4-year process of remembering the pattern that rewired my brain differently.
Right.
And it took me 4 years. I mean, I kept a pencil and paper ready at all times. I would draw every shape, spirals up, spirals down, hearts, diamonds, cubes, every straight lines, and I'd say they're all the same. And the psychiatrist and the doctors and the therapists would look at me and go, "Oh, maybe she lost a little more than we
right.
thought." And they'd say, "This is a circle and this is a straight line. They're not the same." And they'd say, "Yes, they are."
Depends how you've seen it, and you saw it another way.
Yeah, but I couldn't figure the whole thing
right. You couldn't
out.
Get right.
Exactly. So that was 4 years. That was a 4-year journey until Valentine's Day, 1991. I just moved to the Big Island of Hawaii, which, if you've been there, you know it's a magical place in and of itself. And I'm convinced it was very connected to my ability to remember. And it was there that I literally had a dream. And I'm standing at the end of the tunnel in my dream, and I saw the pattern.
Clear enough that you could remember it and write it down.
Very clearly. And there was a woman standing next to me. And I said to her, "What is it?" And she said, "It's the pattern of healing." And boom, I'm wide awake, and I go and I find a pencil and paper and I start drawing. The first thing I draw is 4 squares. That's not it. I get up, I'm frustrated. 4 squares look like a window pane. Came back at it and I looked at it from a different perspective, and I went, "Oh, it's not 4 squares, it's 4 diamonds if you just rotate them 90 degrees. And then out of these 4 squares, which are right angles, an arc emerged. Arcing energy, arcing angles. Make you think of anything?
Archangels.
Yeah,
Right.
hello. Energy arcing across a 90-degree angle. And then there's 4 crescents on either side, 12 pieces. And when you encase the 12 with a single line, you set a field, and then you build 7 bridges. And you complete the pattern. And what you see on the cover of the book is the pattern that emerged. And if you look at it, it's all hearts.
So once this became a reality in a way to you,
Right.
that you could move forth with it. I mean, it's just been an extraordinary journey since then, since '91. I mean, you just finished an amazing workshop or symposium with...
Right.
Why don't you tell people how that kind of proceeded?
Well, we'll back up just a little bit,
Okay.
because once I remembered the pattern, that was when everything, I remembered from one perspective, that I lived with what you see on the cover of the book, that shot, that picture. That's what I lived with for a year and a half. That was my teacher. That was all I knew. And as I looked at it, I would see so many things. And I knew that that was what my life was all about. And in 1992, I wound...
For you to learn it and then bring it to the world.
Exactly. I knew there was so much more than what there was there. But in 1992, I wound up moving to a Buddhist temple on the Big Island of Hawaii and living there. And I hadn't been there 90 days when everything kind of took a quantum leap into a new experience with this pattern. And that I had a dream, and I was told to turn it 90 degrees, and I had no idea what that meant because I'd only drawn it on a piece of paper.
Right.
I hadn't made a model out of it. And when I turned it, I finally got a coat hanger and made a model. I turned it 90 degrees. I saw something totally different than what I had seen before. And all of a sudden, I saw the symbol that looked like a symbol that we feared in our childhood. You know, we grew to respect it and fear it in an earlier incarnational experience, and that's the symbol of the atom, the 3 rings. And yet here it looked just like the symbol for the atom, but it was one connected line.
Right.
And I remember that moment profoundly because all of a sudden I knew it was something very serious, as well as very spiritual and very sensuous in its beauty. And the same night I discovered the Yin-Yang Symbol. And all of a sudden...
So all of a sudden you started changing
See,
the
all of a-
perspective of it, and then
Exactly.
it just started
I started seeing all of these different...
Right.
And I realized then that it may well be an archetypal symbol. And over time we began to look at it more closely, and what we discovered is that in this simple pattern, which is nothing, it's a knot, but it's the trajectory of light. It's a pattern of light, it's sine waves, it's vibration. In that simple pattern, we can't find one spiritual, cultural, religious, mythical, mathematical, musical symbol on the planet. The dollar sign, the pound sign, are the patterns with the ends cut off. But we find all of these other signs, completed forms, within this one simple pattern.
But you and the scientists are starting to discover that
Exactly.
it's the root energy. It's where life, in a sense, started, when it manifested, in a sense.
Exactly. Well, 2 years ago, one thing that I knew, I was fairly quiet about the pattern because I knew that it was serious and I needed to talk to scientists, mathematicians,
Right.
chemists, physicists about it. And so I knew that if I went out and talked a lot about it, I knew a lot of people recognized it as a universal spiritual symbol. But if I went out in that arena and talked about it, the scientists would never talk to me. So 2 years ago, I began working with a mathematician, renowned mathematician, Dr. Louis Kaufman, at the University of Illinois at Chicago. And we began to work together to attempt to understand and mathematically describe and model it. And in one of our very first emails, I put a PS. He did not know where this pattern came from.
So you sent him a letter saying,
exactly.
and a
I'm
picture.
working with a topological form that I'd like some help in understanding
Right.
mathematically. He said, great. And since he was a knot theorist, a topologist, and a mathematician, he was intrigued. And in one of our first emails, maybe 4 or 5 emails into it, I said to him, Lou, I think I know where we're going with this. Do you? And his reply came back 20 minutes later. It bounced right back. Said, Dear Lynnclaire, I think we're going to the core of creation. And so for the last 2 years, Lou and I have been working together, talking to other
and bringing
mathematicians.
in biologists and...
A year ago, we decided that there was enough significantly revealed about the pattern, A, that we can't write a formula for it. It's too complexly dynamic. That the center crystalline core structure, which is not accurately represented on the book because there's no software that can model it, we decided to call in, there you're looking at it, dynamic, well, simplistically dynamic in that it's not breathing, opening and closing
Right.
from the horizontal or the vertical plane. It's beautiful. I mean, the attraction to it is obviously wonderful. But we couldn't write a formula to describe it. And so
and even a computer, a supercomputer,
No.
can't cut the facets
No.
out of it. It can't.
Exactly.
It can't do it. So I mean, it's
No.
like beyond. It's the beginning. So
You're-
nothing until we get back to the one.
Right, here
in a
you're
sense.
looking at the front perspective. It's going to run through there. Now you're looking at, that's the as above, so below, and you see a double yin-yang, or the number 8 surrounded by a single circle. Here you see a symbol that looks a lot like the atom, except it's all one interconnected. The Native Americans call this the rainbow bridge. So there's many
So it's
different,
just all.
it's all
and
contained
the-
in that one form.
And the incredible part of it is that it's all connected. That it's the root of all, and there's no religions that's not part of it. There's no
Right.
color that's not part of it. It's just everything. So if people could experience what the pattern is, that's why it's so, in a sense, revolutionary, radical, and blows people's minds, because if people can experience it
Right.
in any simple way.
Well, all those different symbols that we see in this one continuous loop, what you don't see on that video and what you don't see in the dynamic is that there's an external structure. There are two, if any of your viewers are familiar with Buckminster Fuller, they're geodesic structures. And we're looking at the center structure, and there's an external structure that's much like a bubble, because it blows up, it expands. We can show them this little cosmic schlinky, a little
Right.
model.
And it's connected. I mean, can you
It's
see
all
that it's all
one.
connected? Can we come in with a tight shot on this, maybe?
It's all one. You see that it's a continuum. It's a hyper expression of a knot. But
Go ahead.
okay.
Yeah, keep going.
So the pattern is complexly dynamic. It breathes. It expands and it contracts. Okay. And so you see different perspectives. But the pattern is the dance of light between two different spheres. I like to, it's like a logo for relationship. It's how energy moves. It's the point of agreement that you find. It's why I like to call it love. In how energy flows like a river between two different things. And as we look at what this models and how it bridges across different relationships and what connects it, is that when we are willing to be in that place of love, honoring our uniqueness, celebrating our sameness, then we don't sacrifice love for the need to be right. That's what severs relationships. It's not that there's one way or one thing or
Because
just one path.
There's a root. There's
It's the same.
There's a oneness, and this has a way of, like, I mean, throughout history, teachers and religions have talked about a oneness, but this is almost like a physical manifestation. So can we put almost on a chart of the atoms, in a sense, or and that is the connecting part to everything. Everything has that at its root. So I mean, when people are hearing this all the time, I mean, it's like blowing minds.
It's very, yes, their response is very interesting. We just had this meeting of scientists. It was called the Sequoia Symposium. And Lou and I called a year ago. We realized that we needed to bring together an interdisciplinary group of individuals from chemistry, from quantum biology, from biochemics, biochemistry, physics, gravitational physics, astronomy, astrophysics, all together, and people from philosophy, all the fields of consciousness, spiritual traditions, to talk about oneness, to find the point of agreement so that we can move from there. Because what is it that separates us? It's I'm right, you're wrong. Well, we can
And it's all
see
different perspectives of the same,
Yes,
at its
exactly.
root of the same thing.
all of our symbols.
Right.
They're just perspectives of the same thing.
Right.
So it's not holding on to our position and looking at love, looking at this symbol, at this dynamic energy, but it's saying, oh, I see what you're saying, and move and walk on that path. Let that be the path that we walk on. And that's the place of deep and abiding grace, gratitude. We're not all the same. We all come from different perspectives.
Well,
but we
in a
don't
sense-
have to hold on,
Right.
which is a fight, to our position.
Yeah, I mean, we say this a lot on the show. Cooperation is more important than your own
Right.
individual experience, because at some point, it's at the point there's cooperation, there's oneness, and to have that, you have to let go. And know that your position is changing in that way. And as soon as you see it from a different perspective, it's changed.
Right. It's like if we look at this right now, we can say, oh, isn't that a beautiful six-sided star? But the minute there's an inhalation, it's a straight line.
Right.
And on an exhale, all of a sudden we're looking at a diamond. We're looking at something totally different.
Well, what do you think it is, I mean, in the human condition, that people who've had an incredible experience, but actually the people who've had the incredible experience and started the religion said there is no separation, then later on down the road, when then people only saw one part of it or saw the symbol of it?
It's like this has been seen so many times. I'm not the first one to see it. It's just for some reason we've not been able to get it back in a full expression. I think it's issues of control, issues of neediness or greediness, thinking that there's not enough love to go around, and so you want them in this church or that church. I want them all together. The world is big enough for every church. We don't need another church.
I mean, how
this
can it
is
be
not
that
about another church. This
but
is
how can it be that
honor.
we don't? It would be worse if we had more brothers and sisters, you know, outside our religion. You know what I mean? If there were no boundaries between love or about love or
it's time
country.
to open
Yeah.
the doors
Right,
to the churches, to the synagogues, to the temples, to make them open places to come in and worship. We can honor our uniqueness, but we celebrate our sameness. This work is not, it's about oneness. It's not about one person. It's certainly not about me. It's about truth, and truth with a capital T, being love. And when we realize that that is our truth, and that, as you say, all the great traditions, philosophical and theosophical, theological, we're all based on compassion, on kindness. We are humankind. You know, we've become human, mean, and nasty in order to hang on to our way.
Right, and we've talked about so often that that the real problem is that people feel separate. I mean, that's why 11 and 13-year-old kids go to a schoolyard and shoot people. I mean, it's like, hello.
Well, we have an epidemic. It's what we were talking about. We have an epidemic that's planetary. It's like a global flu, and it's called loneliness. And loneliness breeds depression, and that leads to isolation. And then it has to explode. If there's not an implosion of love happening, there will be an explosion, and the children are where we're seeing the havoc.
Right. And then we provide them with guns, no less. So not that they throw stones at people, and they're to get rid of that anger. But now we've like brought it to a point where they have like, you know, subatomic machine guns. It's like, and it's just out of that feeling separate, not knowing that connectedness and that oneness, not knowing that love.
From feeling that there's not enough to go around, or that we're not enough. It's feeling less than, or having to do perfect. I mean, I lived on that cross, you know, carried that around.
Quite a cross.
That's a big one, you know, and we have to realize that God didn't make any junk. God's not an absentee landlord, and we are all perfect. We can't do perfect. It's not required.
We are
because
perfect.
We're
made
perfect.
of perfect, and we
you know,
are perfect.
we're here to make errors. This is we're in school.
It's an experiment.
We're in school.
Right.
Yeah, we're an experiment. That's for sure.
Okay, well, I think now we should be ready for the second set with Jackson and Shasta. They're going to sing 2 songs for us, Awaken and Winged Ones Take Flight. So whenever you guys are ready, please. Thank you.
Awaken from the dream. I am the dreamer. And all that I see, is created by me. Awaken. Awaken. The Father is calling from forever. So much to do. The Father needs you.
Father needs you.
Awaken.
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 Awaken. Awaken. To the truth of who you are.
To the truth of who
The Mother is calling.
Mother is calling.
Hurry and awaken.
Hurry and awaken.
We set ourselves free.
Set ourselves free.
Let go and just be.
Go and just be.
Awaken.
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 Awaken. To the truth of who you are.
To the truth of who you are.
Awaken from the dream.
Awaken from the dream.
I am the dreamer.
I am the dreamer.
And all that I see.
And all that I see.
Created by me.
Created by me.
Awaken.
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 Awaken. To the truth of who you are.
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 To the truth of who you
To the truth of
are.
who you are.
Who you are. Who you are. And who I am. I give thanks to the Great Spirit for giving the gift of life. I give thanks to the winged ones cutting through illusion like a knife. I give thanks to the Earth Mother for filling all our needs. I give thanks for this awakening, rising ever higher in our deeds. Hey-ya, 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 ho. Hey-ya, 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 ho. Hey-ya, 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 ho. Hey-ya, 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 ho. I see you in myself. I see you in all I do. I see you in everything and everyone. And I pray thy will be done. I watch the river flowing to the sea. I watch the birds take flight within me. I feel the sun pouring love on my face, and in my heart I savor your divine grace. Hey-ya, 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 ho. 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 The time is now, the place is here. So open your heart and let go your fears. Hey-ya, 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 ho. 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 I give thanks to the Great Spirit for giving the gift of life. I give thanks to the winged ones cutting through illusion like a knife. I I give thanks to the Earth Mother for filling all our needs. I give thanks for this awakening, rising ever higher in our deeds. Hey-ya, 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 ho. 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 Hey-ya, 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 ho.
Wow, thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Shasta. So we're back here with Lynnclaire. So where do you hope to go? I mean, do you hope to? I know you have a desire to deal with children and bring this love and this experience of oneness to children. Why don't you talk about that a little?
Well, I'm here. That's where I want to be, is in every new here. You know, just show up and help children, especially. Well, we're all children, to enter into and remember what that childlike state of wonder and awe and gratitude feels like, to help all of us remember that it's not about being childish, that it's not nonsense, although it may be nonsensical to walk into that place of grace, but to help us understand what it is to lighten up, first of all, on ourselves, not take it all quite so seriously. You know, we can have fun with this, you know.
It's about joy.
It is about joy. It's like, you know, I like to, a friend of mine said, you know, he rechristened me, gave me a new name. He said, I know who you are. He said, you're Lady Lynnclaire, the high priestess of the cosmic celestial sirens, she who penetrated but did not rupture, der cosmic double bubble, thus to reveal der exalted cosmic schlinky. So we're calling it the exalted schlinky. Yes, the cosmic schlinky. So it's to lighten up, not take it all so seriously, and to be able to move in joy, to be in that flow. Because what is it that ends a relationship? What's missing is that point of agreement, that place of connection, you know, in how we're different. And so to help people understand that place of light and joy is antithetical to fear. Fear can't reside when you're walking
Actually, you have a little,
like
a simple, let's call it an experiential technique.
Right.
Why don't you actually do that and see people in the audience? Go ahead.
Okay, great.
And we'll all do it.
We'll,
I mean, the audience out there.
Great. Okay, the audience out there, our big audience.
Yeah, a big audience. The multitudes are out there.
Good. Well, what we'll talk about is we're going to talk about the hands, because this is a mudra of motion. This is about making love real. It's like I like to say, it's time to stop going to the cave and meditating on the mountain. It's time to stop, you know, get past waking.
Bring love home.
Yeah, it's time, you know, we've talked about lucid dreaming for a long time and lucid waking. Well, it's time to start lucid walking. You know, going out into the world and changing the world, being in effect. And so Isaiah 49, how do we do this? Isaiah 49:15, I love to go back to different scriptures. The prophet Isaiah said, God said that I carved your name in my hands so I wouldn't forget you. And it's very interesting that if you look at the palms of your hands, like on you will see, do you remember what God's name is? I am that I am.
Right.
Well, on your hands you will find in one hand or the other, on one hand you'll find in the lines of your hand, it's like a Greek A, don't look for a crossing bar, a wave, it's like a sine wave coming up. And on the other hand, you'll find the letter M. We did this with a group earlier tonight.
Right.
Sure enough, everybody had it, an A and an M. Well, the pattern is a sine wave, which is a vibration, you know, like the EEG or EKG. It's a sine wave turned 90 degrees in three-dimensional space and brought back on itself. Well, how do we harness the energy that's in the empty space between us? Is you find the A in one hand, you find the M in the other, and you become the A-U-M. You become the embodiment of the Aum. This program is bridging heaven and earth, I like to say. Here's heaven, here's earth, H and E. How do you bring them together? How do we heal home? You do it on the vibration of Om.
Which is the core vibration, which is basically the vibration that the pattern
exactly.
that the pattern is.
The pattern is A-U-M. It's the vibration of the heart. And so when you find your A, it's either on your right hand or your left hand. you see energy comes in, so you stand up and you put your A foot slightly forward.
So yeah, if people want to do this, I
Right.
mean, stand up and
Find the A,
I'll
find...
sit down and do it. But I'll put
Good,
yeah,
good.
right, okay.
So, and your A hand is your
Right hand.
your right hand.
Right.
So energy comes in.
And my right foot is
and
supposed
so
to be...
your right foot is just slightly forward.
Right,
So
okay.
you're taking the next step. It's imagine that you're
It's
going
an
to take...
opening.
It's an open. It's an invitation to a dance,
Right,
actually.
okay.
And so you imagine that you're just taking in the energy,
Mm-hmm.
and you take it through your body, and you return it to the universe in the form of service, love, compassion, an extension of your essence, honoring that same that's in
Well, when
another
you take
person.
this pose, something begins to
something
happen. Can you
happens.
feel it out there? Because the first time Lynnclaire said it to me, I mean, I've been
Right.
meditating for like 30 some odd years. Although I'm only 33, I started really young. But
Exactly.
right.
Well,
And
what
Lynnclaire
happens-
is only 29. She started a few years
Exactly.
ago. Right, so-
No, I'm honored and thrilled to be 46. Thank
Right.
you very much.
Me too.
So, what happens is your hands begin to vibrate, and they
You
begin
feel
to
it.
heat
You
up.
can
You
feel-
absolutely
right,
feel it.
right.
And I've had people who've meditated for years who've never felt subtle energy, who it floors them. They're just shocked.
Right.
It's like, but what they're doing is literally harnessing the energy that's unmanifest, that's in the empty space that occupies 99.9% of our universe. And it's the invitation to invite another to dance. If you want to stop that energy, that tingling of your fingers, that warming up, all you have to do is close your fist, make a fist, try to hang on to it. It results in a fight. And that need to be right, that need to hang on or to fight, is what severs love. It's what ends our relationships.
And in essence, leads to wars, leads to separations,
Isn't
leads
that
to
what it's all
12-year-olds
about?
shooting guns.
Exactly. It's fear. It's when you come from that core place of fear
Right.
that there's not enough, or some people don't believe they deserve to receive, and so their receiving hand gets anchored behind their back, and they're giving and they're giving and they're giving, and they're wondering why they're hemorrhaging love, why they're always feeling spiritually or emotionally
Depleted.
bankrupt.
Right,
Exactly.
depleted, right.
And so it's coming back out. And although
So it's like that, non-broken process. It's the
exactly,
whole.
it's exactly right.
You can't break it. It's just that it's not a circle because it's
It's a sphere.
yeah, it's a
It's-
sphere.
And and this is going to rupture a lot of people's thinking. You know, we talk about giving and receiving being the same. They're not the same. They just look the same. This is the place. How do you know you're loved? Do you know you're loved because you give love? No, you know you're loved because you receive love, because you can feel that love that comes in. And we're demonstrating literally in the physics of this, that you have to be able to receive not one full measure, but two full measures.
And the whole history of the spiritual movement, the Piscean movement, is almost like against nature, and to a certain extent.
Right.
Because it was to give,
Right.
and getting was bad. Needs were bad.
See, what happened is this whole, why did we come here? Why did we come to planet Earth? We came here for giving, love, and compassion. What happened? Rather than coming for giving, we forgot. We became focused on consumption, greediness, and we've spent all of our energy for getting, trying to fill up this empty place.
What do you think was the linchpin or the turning point? Why did that happen in this development, this experiment? I mean, that's an interesting question, because what would prevent us from happening it again?
Well, the whole question why takes us right off the point, because the question why is it's the brain wanting an answer that's not really relevant.
You don't think it's answerable?
It takes us out of now. Why not? Why not be in love? Why go back, regurgitate, try to figure it out? Let's just be right here, right now. And what takes us right here to right now, what takes us back to our intention of forgiving, love, and compassion, the first thing that we have to do is stop feeling guilty about where we've been, what we've done. It's past, it's history, and we have to forgive. That's the key.
Ourselves
to get
first.
back. Exactly.
Right.
Isn't that the hardest person to forgive?
Not in my
Yourself?
case.
Oh,
I do
good.
it all the time. because
Great.
I have so much
I do
to
too.
do. I'm so
That's
busy
what we
doing
do.
it that it's not.
Well, when you forgive, you move right back into gratitude. I love to tell people, if you're feeling in fear, if you're feeling scared, afraid, find one thing. Go to this place and find one thing to be grateful for, and take a breath, and the fear dissolves. because it can't stand in the light of love. It dissolves.
Yeah, darkness can't stand light.
Well, there is no darkness.
Well, that too. So
You've got your eyes closed. Darkness is when you've got your eyes closed.
Mm-hmm. So you have like intention or plan to
Yes.
meet again with, and to propel
Right.
this further and further into a reality for people.
Right. We had almost 50 people on the top of the mountain for 4 days a week ago. And
This
as
is interdisciplinary, interreligion, intersexual,
Exact.
all.
Men and women,
everything.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing conversation. And the dialogue, the deep dialogue that's coming out of that, they've absolutely required that there be a second symposium. So in June, we'll be having a 6-day gathering. It'll be a much smaller, more intimate group of people addressing this fundamental and dynamic unity from physics, math, the biology, and the chemical perspectives. We don't have to preach to the choir now. You know, we know that the field is unified, right? We understand that.
But the
and
question
now
was
our
how it's
question is
unified.
how it's unified,
Right.
and how might that affect change in our world. So what's coming out of this is my passion is for the children. We have, well, it was so beautiful, Jackson and Shasta tonight, demonstrating through the harmony of their voice, the unity of their relationship. See, and unity is a prelude to harmony. It's this pattern. Once we have an understanding of it, once we see how we can honor uniqueness and celebrate sameness, we have a message that can not only change our lives, it can change the world. And so we have to do this for the children. I'll tell you a real quick story that happened a few weeks ago. I was in Monterey. I was at a street fair buying some art. My purse was sitting open on a table some feet away from me. And I was talking with a woman, and her daughter and a little girl were dancing around, playing around. And all of a sudden I noticed that this one little girl's hand was going into my purse. Now, this was a big risk because this little girl was a little African-American child. And to reach into anybody's open purse is to take a chance.
She was taking it.
She was taking a big chance.
Right.
Well, what she was reaching into my purse for was a pink model just like this blue one. And I saw her reach in, pull it out, and I turned to her, and as I did so, she opened it up like this, and she went, I mean, her eyes got big as saucers, and she went, "The space-time continuum."
That's unbelievable.
And I just,
Right.
I looked at her and I
Right.
put my arm around her and I said, her name was Simone, and I said, "Simone, tell me how you know about the space-time continuum." And she looked at me, her eyes were like pancakes, and she said, "It told me. It's love." Children have a
Right.
recognition
They're
of
coming
this.
in with more
Exactly.
recognition. I mean, I don't know if you saw the opening. I don't know if you were sitting where you could see it, but the
Right.
little blonde boy.
Right.
I mean, the kid's 6 years old, and it's
Right.
like he just blows my socks off all the time.
Well, Simone is 10, and she's come in, she's like this math and science whiz kid. The schools don't know what to do with her because schools have become a box. You put the lid in, they remember this. Children say things like, "Oh, this is going to help me remember the angels. Oh, I remember this before I was born." And you know, here we put them in school and we crank open their brain and we stuff this information in, and then we give them a picture and we say, "Color inside the lines." We say, "Here's how you make an A, here's how you make a B. This is, you know, repeat after me," and it's not educate, it's regurgitate. Well, education comes from the word educare, and it means to call forth, to bring forth who that child is. What is their soul? What have they come here to do? What's their highest being?
What's
And
their
so,
root?
yeah,
What
what's authentic? What is
Right.
germane
What's
to
real?
their soul?
Right.
And so what I'm working with a group of educators, we're getting ready to have an education symposium to look and see how we can come from all these different perspectives of education and find an opening, a way to allow children to be very firmly grounded, but to be able to fly, to discover who they are. And in light of eternity, what matters if it's
Love.
not love?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's so clear. I mean, at some point it got so
Right.
clear to me that if The only problem a human being has is feeling separate, not feeling
Right.
loved. That's it. And from there, everything else comes. And, you know, all the stuff that happens is just right at that root. So if we can deal with the root, I mean, we're never going to solve, you know, the problems with the trees or the oceans or the dolphins, you know, the crime, until we get to the root, till we get to the pattern, however the way is in.
Well, it's a way that, I mean, we can't find one religious, spiritual, cultural symbol that's not here, that's not in this. So what this gives us is a powerful tool, as well as a toy, to bring people together, to bring them around a round table and say, I would like to see this from your perspective. And it's a way to play musical chairs. And then it's a way to take the focus off of the pattern and get them to see this as a path. It's dynamic change. Change is all there is. And in every new here, that's where we are. There's no there to go to. It's just show up.
So, I mean, this has the potential to bring all the religions together and see it's the same.
Right, and
we
for them to
know
honor their uniqueness. This is not about one religion.
Right.
Let's be really clear about that.
Right.
The last thing we need is another religion. I don't want to see this up in
but
the
it's
front
one
of any
experience
church.
in a sense.
It is an experience of oneness.
Right.
Honor our uniqueness, celebrate our sameness. In Judaism, for example, the Shema, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. The Shema means to hear, it means a call, it means to place it, to understand. Islam means surrender, be in the flow. The Tao is the path of unconsciousness. It's the path of light. It's how it moves. It flows like a river.
They're all the same at the root. I mean, they have to be, because it's about love. It's about,
Jesus said, my yoke is easy. The burden is light. Well, what is a yoke? It's how two things are connected. The simplest form of connection is not a circle. A circle is not a connection. It has to be a knot. And the simplest knot is called a trefoil.
Right, and this is all connected, and it can have it can be a circle.
Right. This is a trefoil knot.
And if you squish it all together, it can be a line. It can be all the patterns in here. So in essence, if you could bring this as an opening to everyone and say, we're all here, we're all in this.
That's the path we walk on.
That's the path. And we're all walking, we're all connected. So don't ever, even though from this angle it looks like...
Don't focus on the path, because it'll be pink under my feet and it's blue under yours, and we can argue about that. So you focus, be in relationship. Be in relationship with one another. So that's what it's all about.
So, I mean, I know, I mean, we've spent some time together because you got in yesterday and you're staying at my house. And, I mean, you feel just tremendously encouraged by just all the synchronicity happening now, and all the people who are, of all fields, who are coming together and just celebrating this love, really, this like manifestation of love.
It is a celebration. I've had so many amazing experiences. I mean, we could sit here and talk story. You know, it's either true or it's some colossal cosmic joke and I'm the punchline.
But that's,
it's all about,
just, I mean, you say that in humbleness, but it's not. It's just, I mean, everybody who experiences it knows it's true. It's the root.
It is.
I mean, you could feel it. And the way you know it is because you feel it as love. See, to me, if somebody said this is the root and it's separate, then I'd say then you're not experiencing the point of it, the whole of it.
The whole of it. Exactly. You know, I'm really blessed to have people like Dr. Ashok Gangadine at a Haverford College, who has the Deep Dialogue Institute, whose focus for 35 years in philosophy has been examining all the religious and traditional theosophical, philosophical paths and religious paths. And he's from the East, so he's come into the West from a unique perspective, looking for the points of agreement, looking for the logos, if you would. And he has used double brackets to describe the logos, the word. And he has now put the pattern.
I think, you know, I mean, these shows go so fast. There is a oneness, we can experience it. Just, you know, the way is love, open your heart, we're all one. Good night, God bless you.